Hey guys, with 3.27 around the corner, a lot of people have been asking me about Earthshatter Slammer since it wasn't in the patch notes. And that does mean that it is going to be good for 3.27 again. Probably an S tier starter. Unmatched in hardcore. You cannot compete with slams in hardcore for the first couple days of progression. And in softcore, I would still say it is an S tier starter. It does get outscaled after a few days of gameplay if you have a lot of investment that you can put in the build. Other things tend to outscale it a little more, but for getting your 4 Void Stones and progressing through the game initially as on a League starter, it's pretty much unmatched. So, that being said, let me get into what changed for 3.27. Nothing. So basically nothing changed. If we want to take the new Bloodline Ascendancies, you can get rid of Carnage, since it obviously has that 10% increased damage taken downside. Uh, in case there might be something more valuable we can get from Bloodline Ascendancies. I've also seen the Adrenaline node, which maybe makes you want to ditch Rite of Ruin, Crave the Slaughter, and go for the permanent Adrenaline. That stuff needs to be experimented with a little bit to see how good it is. But besides that, all I've really changed with the guide is I threw in Ben's suppress gear and his tree, so you guys can take a look at that. If you want to invest in suppress, this is kind of the idea. You're gonna go for like small cluster jewels plus suppress rolls on gear and anoint. You probably would still do that if you want to go for super high investment slams this league. But for majority of people, just like playing slams as their starter and then maybe looking to reroll or you know they just want to not bother with suppress. I still have that same setup in here. And nothing much has changed there. Just going to be leveling with Sunder, Ground Slam 1 to 12, then Sunder, and then we eventually switch to Earth Shatter after we get 20 quality on our Earth Shatter at maps. I've got everything in the guide here. And with all that being said, I'm going to do a quick T17 just so the people who've not seen Slams before can see how it performs on very high-end gear. The character I'm going to show you is Suppress Cap character with a very, very good Karui Chopper. Before we go into the tier 17, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the pain points of slams for people that are newer to slams or haven't seen people play them before. First and foremost, Echoes of Creation. Do not equip this item before you have things that allow you to put it on, essentially. You can see here, skills deal 15% more damage for each Warcry exerting them. We have a ton of Warcries. It is a lot of damage to put this item on. However, when we attack, we're taking a ton of physical damage for each Warcry exerting the attack, which is a lot of Warcries, so we're taking a lot of physical damage. You need a really solid Royal Plate with high armor, with a physical damage reduction roll, and some Fizz taken as, on top of having just generally good armor rolls in your gear with good endurance charge uptime. And also, we need Corrupted Soul from a Glorious Vanity with Divine Shield. Essentially, this gives us a big energy shield pool, and Divine Shield makes it so we're hitting ourselves over and over from the helmet, and we're constantly regenerating ES. That's how it works. It gives you a bit of sustain, a bit of recovery, more or less. So you need these things to play with this helmet on. If you don't have these things and you just put the helmet on for fun because it's cheap, maybe in softcore, you're just gonna die a lot. You're gonna kill your character. It's gonna be painful. Also, I wanted to mention because a couple people had the issues last league. Definitely consider running elemental flasks in when you're starting to do tier 17s. They will help a lot. They give you some max res. They're easy to sustain, and they'll just make you generally tankier. And you don't need a Quicksilver on slams. You're just leaping, right? And then also the other massive pain point with slams is going to be mana management when you enter a map. I wrote it in here, but you need an enduring mana flask when you enter maps. Need. There's no going around it until you get a mana leech jewel plus 1 Elrion craft. You can also, if you're very annoyed with your mana, run 1 less Warcry just to have a little bit more to work with, because if you don't have 100% enduring mana flask uptime, then it can be a little painful. So just keep that in mind. Roll an enduring mana flask on an eternal mana flask base. However, once you get a mana leech jewel plus 1 Elrion craft, you can stop running the mana flask and just put on, you know, whatever, Quartz flask, whatever you want to run, life flask. That being said, we don't know where Elrion craft is going to come from this league. I believe it was in Cold River last league, and that is getting removed. So keep that in mind. once you get 2 Elrion crafts, which is the non-channeling craft again, you can have free Warcries entirely and remove life tap from your Earthshatter links. So keep that in mind when you're starting your initial Earthshatter progression when you get to maps. I just wanted to talk about that. All right, let's get into the tier 17. All right, just going to throw in a quick fortress here. This map is Monster Life, Crit, Frenzy, and Feeble, but just wanted to do one quick T17 just to give you guys an idea. This is a very high-end character. Keep this in mind, so it's very high investment. But at the start of the map, we're going to weapon swap Enduring Cry to get our endurance charges going, and then other than that, we just keep our war cries up and blast through the map. Make sure you press your Blood Rage as well. The rotation for mapping is pretty much just take a peek at my exerts every once in a while and make sure my attacks are always exerted, bottom right. I have 2 war cries manually casted here. You can do a setup that is only 1. Even do a setup that's all of them if you'd like, but it's a lot of customization you can do with slams. You can self-cast as many war cries as you want. Slayer is also an option, I should say that, but I heavily prefer Zerker for the speed. And Slayer is also going to have to Warcry considerably more than Zerker because it doesn't have the double exert node. So just keep that in mind. Not quite sure if I have map effect on this Atlas. I do have map effect on this Atlas, just to keep that in mind when we're testing here. So this is Fortress Boss. It's not going to be like insane DPS, but you know, we're just going to be right-clicking pretty much. This is a 40% more monster life and feeble map. So again, slams kind of get outscaled at a certain point when you start investing, you know, hundreds of divines and stuff. But you know, that was just like part of a T17, and then quick fortress boss. Now I will do Minotaur, so you can see how much damage we're doing on that guy. All right, throwing in the Minotaur map. For T16 content, you will cruise through the game with slams. For T17 content, it still does well, but not insane. I did a Steel Charges map here, which is generally a mod you're going to want to avoid because your Endurance Charges are pretty much all your mitigation against your self-hit from the Echo's helmet, but it doesn't really matter that much on this character because it's very strong. And as far as builds you can transition into, if you plan on starting slams and want to not necessarily just full commit slams forever, Strength Stacker and a Juggernaut is a viable option. There might also be some Wander Zerker builds that end up popping up. So we'll just have to wait and see, but stuff like that is always an option if you want to pivot into something else. So this is just Minotaur. I'll let him go down. Dies pretty quick. So, like, you can see that Fortress boss was pretty fucking tanky, you know, so... Anyway, that's slams. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I think Ben might be league starting slams, maybe not, who knows. I'm probably not going to league start slams for the fact that I've played it a billion times, and I'm more interested in doing something a little bit riskier, maybe. But yeah, really, really, really solid starter. So can't go wrong with that. POB will be in the description. And yeah, have fun. Have a good league start.